It all begins with a small wooden table, a shy smile, and a handwritten note tucked beneath a latte mug. Sofia came to the café seeking calm, but instead found the gaze that would change everything. Alan, the barista who admired her from afar, finally gathered the courage to reach out, and a rainy morning became the start of something unforgettable. A gentle story about feelings that bloom slowly, about two hearts falling for each other's little habits, and about how a tiny cafe can become the beginning of a lifelong love.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
The note beneath the cup. I always sat at the same small wooden table by the window. It became my silent ritual, my personal anchor in a world that often rushed too fast for my thoughts to catch up. The cafe smelled like cinnamon, roasted beans, and something warm that I could never quite name, but it always felt like comfort. And then there was him. A young barista with soft brown hair that constantly fell over his forehead and eyes that carried a shy brightness. His name tag said, Alan, but I already knew his name long before I ever heard him say it out loud. I saw how he paused every time he noticed me, how he adjusted his apron, how he pretended to clean a counter that was already spotless only so he could stand a little closer. I pretended not to notice. But I did. Every single day, I came to work on my laptop, to write, to think, to breathe. Yet slowly, quietly, a new reason appeared in my life. A reason with a slightly crooked smile and a habit of biting his lip when he got nervous. One rainy morning, the world felt muted and soft. Drops danced down the window, and I felt that warm, familiar atmosphere wrap around me like a blanket. I ordered my usual drink, and Alan nodded quickly, almost too quickly, as if my presence startled him every time anew. When he brought my latte, there was a small folded piece of paper under the mug. I blinked, confused, then looked at him. He froze. Absolutely froze. Then he whispered, "For you," so quietly that I barely heard it, and hurried back behind the counter. I opened the note. I see you here every day. It feels wrong that I still do not know your name. If you would like to tell me, I would be very happy. Alan. My heart jumped the way it did when I was 16 and someone I liked spoke to me for the first time. I turned the note over and wrote, "Sofia, and I am very happy you asked." When I stood up and walked to the counter, he looked at me with the expression of someone who was choosing between breathing and forgetting how to breathe entirely. I placed the note in front of him. He opened it, read it, looked up at me slowly. And that was how our story began. With coffee, with courage, and with a tiny paper note that changed everything. After that little note, everything shifted between us, not loudly or dramatically, but gently, like the way sunlight changes colors in the late afternoon. Alan started bringing my coffee with a different kind of smile, one that carried a quiet spark. He stopped pretending not to look at me. I stopped pretending not to look back. Some days he asked about my writing. Some days he simply asked if I slept enough, or if the weather outside was as cold as it looked. He always asked softly, as if he was afraid to intrude, yet he always managed to make me feel seen. One evening, when the café was almost empty and the lights were dim, he approached my table with a slightly trembling hand. "Do you mind if I sit?" he asked. I shook my head. He sat opposite me, his apron still on, a faint scent of espresso clinging to him. "I wanted to thank you," he said, "for writing your name. I would never have forgiven myself if I stayed silent forever." I smiled. "I am glad you did not." He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "I wanted to talk to you so many times. I just never found the courage." "You found it now," I said. He looked at me then, directly, deeply, almost too honestly. "Maybe you helped me find it." We talked until closing time. About silly things, serious things, random memories, favorite films, our dreams. He told me that he started working at the café 3 years ago. That he wanted to open his own place one day. That he loved the idea of creating a little corner of warmth where people could breathe again, even for a moment. "You already do that," I told him softly. "At least for me." His cheeks flushed a soft pink, and he lowered his gaze, but the smile stayed. When he walked me to the door that night, he hesitated for a moment before saying, "May I walk you home someday?" "Not today. I would like to, if you would want that." My heart fluttered the way it did the day he left the note. "I would like that very much," I said. He closed the door behind me, and I heard him exhale, as if he had been holding his breath since the first moment we spoke. From that night on, our story truly started to bloom. With shy glances, with small conversations that felt more intimate than they looked, with quiet steps towards something bigger than both of us. And every time I returned to that same small wooden table, I felt that something beautiful was unfolding, slowly, honestly, unmistakably. I honestly don't remember the moment we started officially calling ourselves a couple. There was no dramatic confession, no clear before and after. We just slid into each other's lives. One day he walked me home. The next he brought me breakfast. A week later I knew where he kept his favorite tea, and he knew that I only fall asleep on my right side. It felt effortless, like we'd been quietly practicing for each other without realizing it. It was early spring. Alan came by after his shift with a box of warm croissants. His hair was messy. His apron had a faint cocoa stain. His eyes were tired but glowing. "I brought these because you forget to eat breakfast," he announced, setting the box on my desk. I laughed. "Why are you still wearing your apron?" "Because I ran over right away." He scratched the back of his neck. "I wanted to see your face." That was the moment I realized it. I wasn't just falling for him. I was already gone. It came so naturally that it took me days to fully process it. We were lying on my living room floor, watching some old black and white movie. Alan kept rewinding what he called brilliant shots, giving dramatic commentary that made me laugh so hard my stomach hurt. Then he looked at me. Really looked. Like he was trying to memorize the moment. "I love you," he said. Just like that. As simple as, Hand me the remote. I blinked. What? Seriously? He smirked. Do I look like someone who's kidding right now? I sat up, cupped his face, and whispered back, I love you too. More than I expected. More than I'm ready for. But definitely love. He kissed me. Slow, warm, grounding. Like we were learning a new kind of breathing. The first time he mentioned his dream of having his own coffee shop, we were walking by the river. He kicked little pebbles into the water as he talked. I keep imagining a place of my own, he said. Where I brew coffee the way I want. Where people come not just for a drink, but for the feeling. You know? I know, I said. So, do it. He exhaled sharply. I'm scared. What if no one comes? I took his hand. Then we'll drink all the coffee ourselves. He laughed, but the fear in his eyes softened. We visited so many locations I lost count. Some were tiny closets pretending to be storefronts. Some were too expensive. Some smelled weird. And then we found it. A small spot on a quiet street, with brick walls and big windows that let in gentle morning light. Alan stood in the middle of the empty room. This is it, he whispered. We walked barefoot across the cold floor, definitely not allowed, imagining where the counter would go, where the bookshelves would hang, where the little plants would sit and soak in sunlight. I'll call it AM Stories, he said. Because morning stories start with coffee. And because your initials are AM, Alan Mason, I teased. He turned pink. Maybe that too. Opening day was a Saturday. The air smelled like cinnamon and fresh pastries. The sign, AM Stories, glowed softly above the door. Alan looked terrified, holding a spoon like it was a defensive weapon. I fixed his collar. You're going to be amazing. What if nobody shows up? Then I'll come and order all the drinks. Problem solved. He laughed, the scared laugh of a man trying to be brave. But people did show up. Neighbors, random strangers lured in by the warmth of the place, friends I didn't know he had. And Alan bloomed. He moved with confidence I'd never seen before. He talked to guests like he'd known them forever. His eyes sparkled every time someone said, "This is the best latte I've had." By evening, when the last customer left, I pulled his first note, the one he left on my table weeks ago, out of my bag. I set it in front of him. He opened it, smiled, then looked at me with that soft, vulnerable expression I've always loved. You said seeing me was the best part of your morning, I murmured. Now you've created a place where you get to be the best part of everyone's morning. He hugged me tight, his forehead pressing into my shoulder. This all happened because of you, he whispered. No, I said softly. This happened because of you. I just believed in the version of you that you were afraid to believe in. He touched his forehead to mine. I love you, and I want you with me in every story that starts here. And I knew, this wasn't just a cafe. This was the beginning of our shared life. Our warm corner of the world. Our home in the smell of fresh coffee. True love rarely arrives through grand gestures. It grows quietly, in the moments we tend to overlook. In small routines, soft smiles, and hesitant steps toward one another. This story reminds us that we should never underestimate the power of a small act. One note can shift the course of a life, one conversation can melt years of silence, and one warm glance can become the beginning of everything. Love finds those who dare to be genuine, even when their voice trembles. And above all, happiness often sits at the same table day after day, simply waiting for us to gather the courage to reach for it.